meeting to order, October 14th. May I ask the secretary to call the roll, please?
Mr. Wood,
Here.
Mr. White,
Here.
Mr. Reed,
Here.
Mr. Knighton,
Here.
Ms. Driver,
Here.
Ms. Peace,
Here.
Ms. White,
Here.
Mr. Wieseman,
Here.
Mr. Lovoy.
At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Knighton if he would lead us in the invocation, please.
Dear Lord, please.
Dear Lord, please give us guidance tonight for decision making, and please bring healing and peace for our neighbors who have been affected by Hurricanes Helene and Milton. Please help those who are without power and without home and shelter to find comfort and to find consolation in your arms. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
I'd like to ask Ms. Peace if she'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Prior to this meeting, each one of the planning commission members were given approvals for the last month's meeting. If there are no changes in those minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve as they're written.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Before we get started, I know we got some people standing up. We still have some seats available. Why don't y'all find your seats so you don't have to stand up the whole time. Come on and get your seat. We're waiting on you. We had one case tonight that's been withdrawn. It's a case that has to do with the daycare home or group home care at Deerfield Drive. If you have an interest in this case, it has been withdrawn. If you had notices that were sent to you about this case, then you will get them sent next time because it has been withdrawn from the agenda. Any questions to what I just said? At this time, for those of you who have not been with us before, I'm going to read the subdivision cases. If you have something you'd like to say or comment about the case, you'll raise your hands. We'll move it to the end of the agenda. Otherwise, we've had a chance to listen to them and we're comfortable, I think, with what we've heard. But if you've got a case, got an issue with it, we want to hear from you. So I'm going to read them. If you have a problem, just raise your hand. Any questions? First case tonight is S092424. It's a final map approval for the Black Ridge South Phase 10. Purpose of this request is to create 54 residential lots, 4 common area lots of the subdivision acreage. Staff recommends approval contingent on posting an amount of $357,700. Who's here representing this case?
Obviously.
Mr. Easley, you okay with the amount?
Yes.
Any questions on this case? Next subdivision case is S102427. Final map approved for the resurvey of Lot 5 at Lake Cyrus, Section 16B. Purpose of this resurvey is to vacate the construction easement across Lot 5. Who's here, and the staff recommends approval. Who's here representing this case?
Joseph Miller.
Any questions on this case? Next case is case S102428, final map approval for the property located at 270 Shadecrest Road, a resurvey of Lot 13 on Martinwood Estate, 6th sector. Purpose of this resurvey is to vacate a 10-foot wide utility easement and 3 foot of another utility easement. Staff recommends approval. Who's here representing this case?
Steve Haney.
Any comments on this case? The next case, that's 10-24-29, clearing map approval for the Everly Phase 4A, Sector 2, located in Everly. The purpose of this plat is to create 36 residential lots, 1 multifamily lot, and 2 common area lots. Staff recommends approval. Who's here representing this case?
Bob Eason.
Any comments on this case? Next case S 10-24-30, friendly map approval for Everly Phase 5B. Our purpose of this plat is to create 105 lots, 2 common area lots on the subdivision acreage. Staff recommends approval. Who's here representing this case?
Bob Eason.
Mr. Easley, any comments on this case? The next case is case S 10-24-31. Final approval for the resurvey of the preserve phase 15, lot 601. Purpose of this request is to create a new storm easement on lot 601A. Who represents this, and staff recommends approval. Who represents this?
Bob Eason.
Any comments on this case? And the last subdivision case tonight we have is S 10-24-32. Final approval for the resurvey of the preserve. The purpose of this resurvey is to create a new storm easement and vacate an existing storm easement on lot 613A. Staff recommends approval. Who represents this case? Mr.
Bob
Reese.
Eason.
Any comments on this case? Any comments on any case I've read tonight? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the subdivision cases as read.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, please make a note that I'm abstaining from case 1024-28.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, tonight we have 2 zoning cases. The first case tonight is Z 10-24-13, zoning change for the property located at 2985 John Hawkins Parkway. I think Mr. Martin's got some comments he wants to make on this particular case.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This particular property is currently zoned NZ, not zoned. It is owned by the owner of the Patton Creek Shopping Center, and we have a prospective buyer for the tract. The tract is located at the end of the Paradise Lake subdivision, and it is directly across Patton Creek, the tributary from Patton Creek, the shopping center. The property was placed into a conservation easement. That easement has been recorded and has been reviewed by staff. The easement over the property does allow for a single-family residential dwelling along with customary accessory buildings on the site. And the exhibit on the overhead is an exhibit pulled directly from the conservation easement, which plots out approximately 1 acre of property on the site, along with an ingress, egress, and utility easement to that portion of the site for accommodating 1 residential dwelling. After reviewing the case, staff is prepared to make a positive recommendation on this case, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the subject property is entitled through its zoning of R1 to only 1 dwelling unit, which would be a maximum of 5,000 square feet in size, and shall have customary accessory structures. Again, that language is pulled directly from the conservation easement. And the second condition that we are recommending is that the owner of the conservation easement that encumbers the property shall communicate in writing their approval of any subdivision or development of the property prior to any plats being recorded or construction permits being issued on the site. Again, as noted, the property is encumbered by a conservation easement owned by an entity, a nonprofit out of Blount County, Tennessee. The conservation easement specifies that one dwelling unit may be constructed on the property, and that owner of the easement is entitled to review and approve any and all subdivisions of the property or any development thereon. The easement also provides for other limited uses of the property, primarily of a recreational nature. The comprehensive plan does support low-density residential development and open space recreational uses in the vicinity.
Okay. Developer here? Can you give us your name and address and tell us what you got in mind, please?
Yes, sir. My name's Connor Farmer, 121 Live Oak Lane, Hoover, Birmingham 35242. We bought the property in 2017. We're not the owner of the shopping center. We bought the land from the estate that owned the land, that sold the land to AIG Baker and developed the shopping center. It was across the creek, inaccessible. We bought the property, put it in a conservation easement, kept out 1 acre. Just like he said, we've got a buyer that wants to buy the property, build one house on the 1 acre there that was reserved from the easement. The other 27 acres is required to stay the way it is through the easement, and just wooded, so it'll be one house on 27 acres.
Okay. Any questions? Anybody else? Thanks. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept and approve zoning case Z1024-13.
Motion, do I second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Before I start this next case, I know we've got a lot of people here that have an interest in this case. We want to hear from you, but we don't hear from every single one of you. So what we'll do is we'll start out with the people that want to talk about it. And if we get out of hand, we're going to start limiting them to some times. Okay? In other words, we'll listen to the first group, and if we have more that want to talk, you're going to probably put them on a time clock. This case is two cases in one. It's a zoning case and a conditional use case. Z1024-14 and C1024-08. It's amendment to the Tattersall PUD. I'm going to let Mr. Martin handle the comments that the city's come up with.
Yes, sir. Staff has had a chance to review the application. The application is an amendment to the Tattersall PUD to create a mixed-use village center on 30 acres of undeveloped property in the center of the development between the public shopping center and the Pet Paradise location on the far east end or north end of the development. The request includes a conditional use request to allow the residential uses to mix in with the commercial in the village center. The PUD amendment also includes new development criteria to create a more compact and dense development on this 30 acres. The staff, again, has had a chance to review, and we come forward with a recommendation of approval contingent on the following. And the one condition that we have is that the PUD amendment is altered in accordance with the staff comments made on the latest version of the PUD amendment and submitted to this planning commission. We went through each of those during the work session. Other considerations and comments: the property is currently zoned PC, planned commercial. It can be utilized for a number of commercial uses. The application for zoning amendment and conditional use approval will permit residential uses to mix with the commercial uses on the site and create development criteria for the subject property, allowing a more compact form of development. Comprehensive plan supports commercial development in the vicinity. I do believe the developer and their team are here this evening, and I believe they do have a presentation that they would like to make to the commission.
Developer here. Come down and give us your name and address and tell us what you have in mind, please, sir.
Yes, sir. It's James L. Page, 1 Mount Laurel Avenue, Birmingham, Alabama, 35242. You know, I think everybody's aware of what's out at Tattersall currently. We've been selling out parcels there since 2014. Over the course of time and through the years, we have been reviewing this and would really like the opportunity to create a very interesting place with the remaining acreage we have. A village green, which will allow for, you know, food trucks and also farmers markets and things of that nature. As you can see with the plan, it's a pretty big sized village green. We're currently working with Corporate Realty and Jimmy Holloway, which I'm going to introduce here in a minute, let them go through what we're have a joint venture with them on an active adult here in Hoover, which he'll outline what we're doing there and how well that's going. We're very excited about the opportunity to do something unique and create a place here instead of a continued out parcel sale program. So I'll turn it over to Jimmy now and let him walk through what we're doing here at Hoover.
Thanks, Jay. Jimmy Holloway, Corporate Realty, it's now CR Endeavors. We're the developer representing the active adult side. Matt, could you put the land plan up, please? Actually, if you go back to the last slide, I think that's a better slide to go through. So we are currently in Hoover. We are out of Knox Square, and the team we have, the CAD is our design group. They have designed and laid out a fabulous active adult community that we're building. Signature Homes is the contractor. We're building that currently out at Knox Square. I would ask for any of you that have any questions as to the type of community that we're trying to build and what it's going to look like, feel like, please go out and visit. We'll be glad to set up a tour for you, come through and walk through. Our management company is managing that, it's Eclipse Management. We have salespeople on site. We do not own it, but there is a village retail center next door at Knox Square. It is going to house all types of community-minded retail needs. It's going to be a small grocery. There's going to be a nail shop. There's going to be a workout facility, small restaurant, same type things of what we're talking about at Tattersall. And the village green aspect is everything that we're looking at across the southeast and what we're building for active adult is what we have seen in study after study and what communities have come forth and they want. They want walkability. There was a question earlier about walkability, parking, all of those type things are important. The ability to walk across the street, go to the ice cream, go get a cookie, go get a glass of wine, whatever, have neighbors that live in a market rate or have guests that come in and stay in a hotel is a key aspect of having a vital village green in the community. It's not about...
Where's Knox Square located?
We're not going to be asking him questions. We'll ask him the questions and y'all can, if you got a question, we'll answer them for you.
Okay.
Would you like me to answer the question, sir?
Yeah, just go ahead. Go ahead with your presentation. If he's got a question, we'll take his questions and we'll get them all answered at once.
All right, that's good. So anyway, from a village green standpoint, the community of being able to walk, park, and have activities, as Jay said, having Saturday morning activities with the farmers market, having afternoon activities for birthday parties, having nightly or early evening activities with music on the green. All those type of things, it's small, it's low key, and the folks that are living, I'm 58 years old, what they call age restricted housing is 55 plus for active adult. The average people that live in active adults be more in the later 60s or latter 60s. We are talking about a very small community-based development that's going to be, it does have a housing aspect, but the housing aspect is based about living around a village center. And so from that, I'll stop, be glad to answer any questions, talk about our mix, talk about whatever anyone would like to have.
Okay.
How are sales going at Knox? I live near there, so I've got to see that up close, and I'm just curious if you expect the same thing here?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So we're leasing, we're not selling. So it is a residential rental community. And we are, for the first building that is being delivered right after Thanksgiving, we're 31% leased. So we're doing really well in leasing activity, considering that we don't have a finished product for people to walk through. Right now we do offer hard hat tours, but it is very raw and unfinished. In the next 30 days, it's really going to come along, and I think you'll be able to see what the finished product looks like. It is very high quality. I'll put it up against any multifamily rental community in Birmingham or in Alabama. It's going to be one of the nicest ones around. What is planned for Tattersall would be a sister property to be of the same nature, and I think there would be more demand than there's going to be units.
Thank you.
Before we start just doing individual questions, do you not have any more presentations such as traffic study, lighting, you know?
Traffic study is going to be addressed by a traffic engineer. If you'd like to go to that, I'd be glad to hand
I'd like to hear
out.
the whole presentation, and then before we start asking you particular questions,
Perfect.
maybe you'll answer a lot of our questions before we get to them.
Jared, you want to talk about the land plan?
Jared Calhoun, Nicat Architects, 2227 Second Avenue North, Birmingham, 35203. We're excited about the opportunity to create a place where, you know, connections can be made, community can happen. I think that's what's missing from a lot of the development that we've seen over the past 50 or 60 years. And like Mac has talked about and referenced some of the comprehensive plan, the idea of walkable Main Street experience, about mixed use, and especially about those happening within the current city infrastructure and the focus on those. This project kind of ticks off a lot of these boxes. We are trying to create Main Street Place, kind of mixed use development centered around community civic space that's open to all, accessible to all, and to surround it with enough user groups and enough different kind of schedules that we can create what we call an 18-hour day, that you have enough people on the street that support all of the commercial space that's there over the course of an 18-hour day. And that takes a variety of housing options. We call those, you know, stage of life housing options oftentimes, and the active adult plays a part in that. The mixed use residential plays a part in that, and some of the more typical market rate multifamily, they all appeal to a different group, and we need all of those groups to help support, you know, the commercial activity and to help all of those retailers thrive. So I think we're in line with what the comprehensive plan is asking for, and you know, the Village Green, and I think the comparable that we have to this in the comprehensive plan was the Lorna precedent, where they're talking about the redevelopment of that and how it centers around green space available for unstructured recreation and picnicking, and it's a way to provide third place. We call our homes first place, and our workplaces second place, and the third place is where we go when we're not tied to the first two, right? But it's where we meet friends, it's where we meet new people, make new friends, and we look at this as an opportunity to create some of that third place. Mac, to go to the land plan, I'll kind of walk everybody through the pieces of it. So I think everybody's got a broad overview here. I think the street coming off Tattersall Boulevard and the street that's connected to the Publix Plaza are really what we're trying to consider Main Street, and those are on-street parallel parking, street trees, pedestrian-oriented environment, and pulling all of the buildings up to those and trying to make it compact and walkable, and then to let the parking happen back away from the buildings, so we're not interrupting that streetscape and experience. So on the upper right here is the active adult, like Mac mentioned. That's a variety of unit types, but all kind of centered around the primary amenity, the clubhouse, fitness, and pool area that's in the center. Right below that and to the right is the hospitality component that will have retail at the ground level, kind of typical to a hotel, and a small amenity space that's on the right side there. And then above that are all the floors in the residential dwelling units. And so those buildings are the tallest ones on site, along with the mixed-use building, and those are all meant to kind of frame the green. And we talk a lot about the size of the green and how we make outdoor spaces comfortable and how we make them feel appropriate. And the larger they get, and this one's between a third and a half acre, so the larger they get, the more room between the buildings, the taller the buildings need to get. So we're not trying to be aggressive about height or density here. We're trying to make something that's appropriate to the size of the green and the community space, and that frames it in a way that makes the space in the center feel very comfortable. Bottom of the page, both labeled A, are restaurant users. That's a big anchor, and the way we used to develop it was the town hall or the courthouse or some civic use or a church that was always kind of the center and the draw to a lot of these communities. More often than not now, it's the public house, it's the meeting place, and that's a lot of restaurant and F&B are what draws people in, and then they get supported by all of the other retail development that follow along. In the gray off the left side are more walk-up multifamily units, a bit different and a bit more removed from the center green. I think the variety here is probably what makes it appealing to a wider audience. And then against Pet Paradise on the far edge, we have some commercial office and just typically commercial space. I think what goes there is still up for debate. The self-storage comment that was in the markup for the PUD amendment, it was really labeled here, and we know we have a noisy neighbor, so it was doing some acoustic abatement for the remainder of the development, and I don't think anybody is married to that, but that was an idea that we had spoke about that might be compatible on that end of the development. Can we advance the slide, Mike? Green space and open space. A lot of this is about walkability, and a lot of it is about the public realm. So I think what we're hoping reads here are just tree-lined streets and a big community green and buffers around the perimeter to, I think, be good neighbors and create streetscape not only internal to our development, but also along Tattersall Boulevard. Next slide. Connectivity, the walkability should be a paramount focus in all of this. It is the intent of why we're doing the development is to make it compact, make it walkable, to get people out and away from cars and just to wander around. So the yellow highlighted streets here are all the kind of primary pathways around the community green and the streets. And then in the green dash, you see all the kind of the secondary connections. And it's just about breaking down the block structure and creating a lot of permeability so people can wander in and through all of the site. Next slide. Building heights, this was another staff comment, and I think they just caught a graphical error on our part. So the hotel use here is listed as the 5-story. The mixed-use multifamily around the green and the 2 active adults are listed as the 4-story. The townhomes and the walk-up multifamily, the market rate on the west side, are 3-story, and then it continues to step down. The townhouses will be 2 to 3-story. The commercial spaces adjacent Pet Paradise would be 2-story, and then you'll see some 1.5, which are really the clubhouse use, the food and beverage, and some of those commercial spaces along the street. And I think these are kind of like a word cloud, just the things we're thinking about when we go about talking and designing all of this. It's about connectivity, and it's about residential frontages and commercial space and open space and quiet moments and activity, and it takes a lot of things to make a community, and we hope that we're we're providing enough of those to give this proposal a chance at being a good addition to what is out here at Tattersall. And with that, I will pass it off to Aubrey to talk about traffic.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Aubrey Long. I'm with Skipper Consulting, and we conducted a traffic study for this development. The main purpose of the traffic study was to evaluate the existing roadways and networks to identify any potential impacts from this development and to identify any specific improvements to mitigate those impacts. As part of that, what we do is we take a look at existing conditions, seeing what's out there today, and to use that as a baseline of comparison for future conditions. So we identify 4 main study intersections, 2 on Highway 119, the first being at Greystone Way, Brookline Parkway, and also Tattersall Park Drive. And then the other 2 are internally on Tattersall Boulevard at Tattersall Park Drive and the Boulevard at Greystone Way. So four main intersections. We went and conducted traffic counts at those intersections and did observations, had conversations with city staff to get an idea of what the areas of concern are. And then we looked as far as the future conditions. We take a look at the development, generate the traffic, estimates for that. And Mac, I did want to point out that I did receive your comments. We did go back and look at the changes from our original projections. We weren't too far off, and we went back, changed the numbers, and still confident in our same results. But we could want to look at the Greystone Way 119 slide. But we have currently Greystone Way at 119 is currently a signalized intersection. And talking with the city staff, one of the areas of concern was the Greystone Way approach, and seeing that in our observations. Currently, you do during peak periods of time see that approach queue back up, traffic queues back up. It sometimes queues back up to the Tattersall Boulevard intersection. Currently you have a left turn lane and a shared through right lane for that approach. And what's happening is the traffic's queuing back up, and at times will block access to the left turn lane, which is, and then in and of itself increases the queue for that intersection, for that approach. So we tested a few alternatives and recommended to add an additional through lane for that approach. And the drawing you see on the bottom is kind of the concept of that. But basically you would have a left turn lane, a through lane, and then also a through shared right lane. 2 things that does. First, it's going to reduce the queuing significantly and allow access to that left turn lane. We want to make sure we've recommended to make sure we get the full length and storage ability so that lane does not get blocked. The other thing it does is improves the overall capacity of the intersection. We're able to push more traffic through each cycle of the signal, so it helps there as well. We go to 119 at Tattersall Park Drive. This intersection is currently a side street stop. There is a plan as part of a previous project to install a traffic signal at this intersection. It is currently in the construction phase. We expect it to be constructed and operational within the next 12 months. And so all of our future conditions analysis was done so assuming that signal would be in place. As far as the current laneage that you have left turn lanes, right turn lanes already on 119, and then you have 2 approach lanes on Tattersall Park Drive. So With the language in place now and the planned signal in place, we didn't have any additional improvements for that intersection. And then next intersection, the Tattersall Park Drive at Tattersall Boulevard. Currently, that's a three-leg intersection. It's an always stop. As part of this development, this would add the fourth leg to that intersection. We, in our analysis for looking for future conditions, we assumed that that would continue to be an always stop. Results from that show that that would continue to operate well. And the language that you have in place is what you need. So no additional improvements were recommended for that intersection. And then the last intersection, Tattersall Boulevard at Greystone Way. It is currently a side street stop. Our focus there is to maintain traffic on Greystone Way. We want to keep traffic flowing there. So we didn't want to change any traffic control there. So we want to keep that as a side street stop. You have turn lanes there, left turn lanes, right turn lanes. You have also 2 lanes approaching Greystone there. So no additional laneage there. So no additional improvements we recommended for that intersection. I would say overall, just for this development as a whole, you have a lot of access, which is good for a development this size. You have direct access to Highway 280, multiple access points to 119, and multiple access points to Greystone, so that helps disperse the traffic.
Any more presentation? Any more presentation?
Yeah, just a couple last comments. One on the traffic study, when you look at the overall, maybe you just mention it, just the impact overall from current use versus where we are with the new defined use for the mixed use.
Sure.
So under the current commercial zone, what the impact would be versus where we are with the mixed use.
Yeah, so we were asked to take a little trip generation comparison of what's currently zoned for versus what's being planned. For what it's currently zoned for, it was allow for a lot heavier retail use, and in general, retail is going to be a much higher trip generation for development compared to the residential that's been planned. So from the 2 different scenarios, as currently planned with what could go, would generate twice as much traffic as what's currently site plan that they're proposing there. So pretty big difference there.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that point. The other thing, just to note, we did have a few meetings with the Greystone Neighborhood Association prior to going through planning. So we met back in late February. We met again in June. We heard their comments. We listened to them. You know, a lot of the comments were about traffic, so I think the traffic impact is a very important part. The current use with the Publix and just talking about the land plan here did such a great job talking about sort of what some of the uses were. One of the things that we were looking at from a noise standpoint, if you have ever been to Pet Paradise or any type of kennel or dog hotel or pet hotel, there is a lot of noise. And so with that, when we were looking at building E and the concept was talked about for self-storage, the thought there was if we had a building that did not have people in it, it would be a good barrier to the noise factor. And then also on the public side, the way that the parking is lined up to match the parking for the Publix, and then the townhomes for the active adults sort of line up and vary the service corridor for the Publix. It gives everything from the village green sort of insulated feel. But with that, that's the end of our presentation. We very appreciate y'all's consideration.
I gotta believe we've got some questions from the ladies about traffic or parking or something.
I think we discussed the parking you know, my concerns about the number of parking, location of parking, etc. I know we'll see more when the plat would actually come in if this does get approved. I do have a question though, Mac. I want to make sure I understood earlier in our work session. Exhibit D-3 that is in the proposed PUD document is the schedule of land uses, and you stated that anything that had a P is currently permitted. No, the developer can come right now and begin, other than pulling some building permits on any of these uses that have a P value, correct?
The,
And that matches our current zoning?
it does not.
Okay.
This is a unique use table
Right.
for this PUD amendment.
Okay, I guess what I was asking is, are the only changes the Cs, where they're asking for their conditional uses, or kind of mix and match?
There are some subtle changes between this and the use table presented in the zoning ordinance for the PC Planned Commercial District. Having gone through this particular use chart, our comments are related to trying to ensure that we don't have uses that could potentially be noxious located in this site, and if there is a particular or potential noxious aspect, asking for those to be revised to conditional uses.
Okay, so currently if it's PC and auto parts store, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We're also talking some building supplies. The hotel can currently be built. All they have to do is pull a building permit.
That's correct.
Okay. Wholesale store. Are we talking like a Sam's, Costco kind of thing? Okay. And like I said, I'm just gonna fill for myself, and also so that others aren't quite aware of what is zoned currently and what could be constructed today. Automotive repair, doesn't look like it, maybe some minor.
Minor automotive repair under the current ordinance will be permitted. Now, I will say with a caveat, there were a few alterations in the master plan unit development for Tattersall, a few deviations from the chart that we have in the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
But by and large, what we have in the zoning ordinance would apply.
Right, and that's what I was looking at, self-service, which you've already spoken about, brew pub, a warehouse, part of an office or retail operation. Like I said, I just want to make sure I understood completely what could currently be built without any approvals other than a building permit being pulled. Okay, thank you.
Anybody have any questions for the developers?
I have a couple. So I'll just rattle these off and y'all can decide who's gonna answer them. One question on the hotel. Will that have any meeting facility space in it, or is it more like, you know, Hampton Inn style, you know, just minimal meeting rooms? Or are we talking about large meeting spaces in there? Or are you there yet? And then my other question is related to the walkability. So what you're doing within the village is highly walkable. What thoughts do you have about crossing across Tattersall Boulevard and making that safe and comfortable for pedestrians to move to the existing commercial space?
I'll try to answer both of these. I think the hotel concept, we expected an upper end but limited service kind of hotel, so probably not a large convention center or anything that's like that associated with it. Maybe some smaller meeting spaces. You have the cafe and some of that occupy the ground level of the commercial space. As far as connectivity, yeah, that's important to us, not only within our project, but connecting to everything that's around us. So connections that go up Greystone, connections along Tattersall Boulevard into the rest of the development would be a primary kind of focus for us.
So I guess you would work with the city on looking at the pedestrian crossings at the intersections and...
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman. And Mac, you know where mine's going, and I think that you thought we might have somebody from the school district. Is anybody to speak on that? Just wanted to make sure that we get you on record that from a standpoint of, you feel that if these changes outside the 55 and up in these single-family homes will not severely impact what we have slotted for our school plan. So I would love to hear that from you.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Bob Blair. I'm the Executive Director of Student Services for Hoover City Schools. I've talked with Dr. Maddox about this. This is kind of falls within my purview of planning. I want to thank Mac for reaching out to get the schools input. I really appreciate that. We have capacity on that side of town, so we're really good with capacity there. If we look at the number of 137, we're talking somewhere between 50 and 60 kids, but if I follow correctly tonight, the multiple bedrooms would be 50% of that, which would yield somewhere around 27, 30 kids, somewhere in that range. Of course, it's not scientific, right? We're going to take those and spread them out over all grade levels. So we're talking everything from 5 to 6 kids per grade level all the way down to 2 kids per grade level. Doesn't always work that way, but when it comes to planning, that's kind of how we do that. So as far as capacity on that side of town, we're in great shape.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I've got a question. I'd like to go back to parking and how much parking is adequate and what's not adequate. Y'all can address that a little bit, because I think we've had some concerns about 1 car per unit, and that to me is a little bit skinny.
So I think we find in past work that F&B, obviously you're driving a ton of the parking needs in mixed use communities, and you have to allow for those kind of in isolation. And the rest of the uses, office space and commercial and retail and the multifamily and the active adult, all have different time of use patterns. So what we've found historically with the active adult is that it's about 1 car per unit that actually ends up on site. What we've found historically with our mixed use market rate multifamily is that it's much lower than most municipal guidelines, that it's closer to 1 than it is 1.5 or 2. And then the traditional walk-up multifamily, depending on your location, it generally operates somewhere between 1.5 to 1.75 per unit to be functional.
Okay. Do you have any more presentation? Okay. So I'm sure there is.
Mr. Chair, I would ask one little bit of clarification, as Ms. Peace brought up, that the mixed use market rate multifamily units are 1 space per unit. So we're looking at building C as housing those units that would only have 1 space according to each unit. And I do know that we almost have half the units proposed that are 1 bedroom. So perhaps they could address what type of unit they are proposing to mix in with the retail and building C. If those are one bedroom units, the 1 parking space makes a little more sense.
You want to address that?
As far as the unit mix on site, I think that kind of is spread all over, so those numbers just include all of the multifamily. With that building specifically, I think it has mostly 1s and 2s. I think that's 98% or 97% of the units that are in there. I think the way we think about it and talk about it is that you have retail uses that span a certain time period during the day. You have residential uses that span a time period that generally overnight. And so they're symbiotic to some degree, and that's why we're comfortable with the proposal and the parking loads that we've given you.
Have you done an actual shared parking analysis using the ULI methodology?
Everything that we're proposing here is very much in line with mixed use and shared parking from smart codes. And it's been employed all over the country.
Do you have any designs of having assigned parking for the, in particular the 55 and up, or just any of the residential units?
We have talked about as a team on the way this would break up and whose parking is where, kind of the Plat Map conversation about the proximity of the parking. Specifically with the active adult, the parking lot that's to the rear of that is going to be used by the active adult. It's not proximal to anything else. It's convenient for them, but not necessarily for anyone else. So all of their parking would likely be designated in that area.
Okay, but the other multifamily units, and I believe I had the same question on Knox Square. Are there concerns with safety and the pedestrian accessibility from the residential units and parking spaces that are potentially a good walk away? I mean, this makes it appear like it's, you know, very close where they might get stuck, but I know you're not gonna be able to police the spaces and only have, you know, you're not gonna be able to sit there and mark these out and have them specified for specific buildings more than likely. So other developments like this, have there been concerns about safety, walking, you know, nighttime, lighting, again, pedestrian?
Yeah, I think lighting, wayfinding, and signage are all important layers of this that probably aren't particularly fleshed out at conceptual level. I would agree with you. Traversing the parking area and getting from there to the units, I don't think we have a big concern over that. We do try and keep the parking as proximal to the buildings as we can. And I think we're trying to shorten the distances between the parking spaces and whatever the adjacent use, whether it's residential or commercial, actually is. We're trying to make them site distributed, if that makes sense. So they're in accordance with the uses and the densities on site.
Let me ask you another question. I want to make sure I understood this correctly. I think I heard it from your traffic guy. That based on what you're proposing, it will generate half of what the traffic that could be was currently already zoned. Is that correct?
That's correct.
One other question, what about landscaping? Are we comfortable that we've got, this one could meet our landscape ordinance?
Yes, sir. Our landscape architect has reviewed this along with the rest of the development review team, and we're satisfied that it can meet the minimums.
Thanks. Do you have a question for the developers? I know we had some people that had some comments. You, sir, had one to begin with. You want to get up and tell us your name? And
Mr. Wood, I did have I had a question. Go ahead.
Well, before you left, I wanted to make sure, because the question was asked to the gentleman, could you share with everybody the location of Knox Square? Because it was asked earlier from that standpoint.
Yeah, of course. Knox Square is in Trace Crossings. It's directly across from the Met. There's a single family development that's kind of tucked back in there, and then along the actual street frontage are the active adult and the commercial pieces, much like what we're showing here.
So my question was also related to traffic. I heard the contrast earlier between what the traffic could be if it was fully developed, planned commercial, versus what you're proposing here. But can you tell us what the difference is between what the current traffic counts are and what this plan would propose?
Can you be a little bit more specific in what you're asking? You're talking about the existing, like what's out there today versus what's being planned?
Correct.
Okay, so with this being a big study with multiple intersections, it's you basically, I think the best way I can say it is to talk about what the actual trips are. Sorry, there's a lot of numbers, can't remember those, but So when we look at these, we look at morning time, peak hours, and afternoon peak hours. So basically from 7 to 9 in the morning or 4 to 6 in the afternoon, that's your commuter peaks. And so that's what these trips are based off of. So in the morning, you have roughly 100, everything in total would be roughly 150 trips coming in and 160 coming out. So that's in the morning. And then the afternoon typically is a little bit higher with this, so it'd be 225 coming in and 182 coming out. Those are the estimates there. So those then, when we do our study, we look at all the intersections, come up with a distribution of how they're dispersing out. And so those trips are applied to the existing intersections in that way. So and the comment where I was talking about when you have a lot of access, that helps spread that out. So you're not pushing all of that traffic through one particular intersection. And just based off the direction, we look at things of, obviously Highway 280 is where a lot of people want to go work, going down 119 towards Leeds, that area. So it disperses out pretty well, and then the more access points you have, that spreads out.
So the 150 and the 160 that you referenced, that's shown up on this map, this is based on the housing numbers that were just over there to the left, is that right?
Correct, yeah. And that's what, these numbers are probably need to be a little bit higher, so you're probably looking, you got the 166 is 170, so that's what the updates that Mac was talking about. But the magnitude of those numbers are the same. But yes, we look at each individual land use. So you have the active adult, what it generates, and then the market rate, hotel, etc. So we go down the list of each one and then combine everything together, and you have different distribution rates based off what it is. If it's residential in the morning, you're going to work, so you're heading out, so you're outbound in the morning, it's higher, and afternoon you're coming home. Versus retail, it's switched. Morning time is lighter. The afternoon people come in to shop midday and afternoon.
And did I understand earlier that you said that retail or commercial generates more traffic than residential?
Yes.
And I believe that there are actually 45,000 square feet of commercial planned at this site. Did you update your numbers to reflect that amount of commercial?
Yes, yes.
And what are your new numbers?
I did not bring those numbers with me, so I'm going off memory here, but you had an increase of, the afternoon is really the one that is, because retail is more afternoon generated. But those numbers jumped up to around 275 in the morning, or excuse me, coming in, and a little over 200 in outbound.
Thank you.
Excuse me, one more question with regard to this traffic. I'm assuming Skipper, you seem to always be involved in these traffic studies, so you kind of got the market cornered. How much impact did the Whitby development have on these intersections that feed directly into this? And can you just kind of give us an idea what those numbers, with that sizable residential development, what kind of stress that put on these signals?
Are you talking about what they're planning, or
what's currently there right now? Across the street from Tattersall? At the corner?
Oh, the apartments that are across the street?
Yes, that Whitby development there, yeah.
Well, that is in play. I'm trying to make sure I'm thinking right. So across the street from 119, those apartments?
Yeah, across the Brook Island Way from Church Brook Hills, right there on the 119, and that, we should be able to get it. At least we pointed out where it ultimately landed.
Yeah, so as far as I understand, that's been constructed and in place.
Yeah, that's there. I'm just asking, do you have any numbers prior to that would show the this may be outside of your scope. I'm not trying to corner you or anything like that. But do you have any input that would say that prior to this development coming into place, this is what our traffic study said about these particular intersections that are impacted by the new residential development that would be on the other side of the road? That's all.
I don't have specific numbers, and when we did count recently. We've done an extensive amount of work in this area, so we do have a lot of historical counts. I will say, just overall, the numbers on 119 and Brook Highland and Greystone have been similar throughout the years, and so. But for this particular development, it's got a different access point than what's across the street. What Tattersall is. For those, their more direct access is to Brook Highland. So a good portion of that traffic is most likely going to go left out of there onto Brook Highland Parkway going towards 280. And then they do have direct access to 119, that it's just an outbound only.
Yeah, I understand. My only reason for asking that is one of the intersections that's on your study is actually one that feeds into that development.
Right, yeah, and that should be included and captured in our counts.
It's not even rented out yet, though.
Yeah, it's not even leased.
Okay, well, I'd be happy to go back and take a look at that. We can generate.
I understand. I'm just getting everything out there so we can. I didn't know if that was something that you had considered prior to making this.
Big question.
Mr. Long, in just reviewing your trip generation analysis, it seems to me you have been conservatively high in estimating trips. You only took a 5% reduction for mixed use.
Correct.
Trips within the development. That seems kind of low given the uses. Would you agree with me, or?
Yeah, I typically try to be conservative in that, because that is really an engineering judgment with that. So just kind of my rule of thumb is I try to be conservative in that number. Yes, I do think you could make the argument that mixed use or that mixed use rate could be higher. And if that's the case, then that traffic would not be impacting 119 in the outer ones.
So a higher mixed use rate in your calculations would reduce your total trip generation, and you took a conservatively low mixed use rate.
Correct.
Just to, I guess, be careful in making sure you had all the bases covered.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir. Let's see, we have the other side has, give us your name and address and tell us what you have in mind, please.
Thank you. My name is Ray Fitzpatrick. I live at 8034 Castle Hill Road, which is in the Founders subdivision of Greystone in the city of Hoover. My office is at 1200 Corporate Drive in the city of Hoover as well. I'm a board member on the Greystone Founders Board. I've been either board member or counsel for the board for the last 20 years. With me is Larry Doherty, who is the president of the Greystone Founders Board. I speak as an individual. I don't purport to speak on behalf of the entire board, but Larry also agrees with the points that I'm making. First of all, historically, in 1990, Greystone was annexed to the city of Hoover pursuant to a comprehensive annexation agreement. This property was designated as planned commercial. This property had covenants attached to it that said developer, meaning Daniel Corporation, is the owner of approximately 2,000 acre mixed-use development situated adjacent to the property and desires that the property be developed in accordance with development guidelines and plans which are compatible with the development plans for such 2,000 acre development. As a result, When Hoover annexed Greystone in 1990, it made the bulk of it a 2,900 unit residential unit, single family planned residential community, and this parcel planned commercial. It should stay commercial. The covenants were originally adopted to make it commercial, and Daniel Corporation retained control over what was to be built on this property until 2016, when Daniel released its developer rights and assigned them to EBSCO. Ever since, EBSCO has made a number of attempts to put residential uses, on this property. Right now, as was recognized in the question a few moments ago, there are 321 apartments that were built by EBSCO directly across the street from this project. Whether it's impacted the traffic yet or not remains to be seen. I don't know how many are actually leased. There aren't a lot of cars in the parking lot. But it's a very nice building. I've been through the building. There's no question it's a nice building. But it's probably not impacting traffic much because I don't think they've got a lot of tenants in there yet. There are probably 1,000 new multifamily units on 119 between 280 and Lake Purdy. That's a lot of traffic. If you see it at night, at 5 o'clock, the traffic is backed up both ways for an extended period of time. The 119 corridor is saturated already with multifamily. There's a lack of clarity in this application. The version that I was given was version number 2. That's what I was sent 2 weeks ago after public notice of this hearing was published. I asked the mayor's office for a copy. My request was sent to the planning department. The planning department sent me version number 2. I saw version number 3 up here on the board today. It's different. The footnote with regard to the bedroom configuration is new. We haven't had a chance to look at it yet. My original plan was to comment that there are no unit mixes in the application. Now I see a unit mix, but it's a moving target. The number of market rate units is a moving target in this application. They can do away with the hotel, increase the number of market rate units. They can switch 20 of the adult units to market rate. As I read the application, there are this application, if granted, allows them to build as many as 355 apartments on this site. That's a lot. That's bigger than the one they just finished across the street. The traffic study does not reflect the number of units that are in the zoning application. The traffic study assumes a lower number of units. Now I heard tonight, oh well, it really doesn't make any difference. I think we should have a traffic study that is consistent with the application. The traffic study refers to affordable units. It's inconsistent with the application, which refers to market rate units. Where did they get that affordable units from? I don't know. But that's what the traffic study calls them. The application is vague. It should have clear, final numbers on the number of market rate units, on the number of studios, 1s, 2s, or 3s. Are the cottages going to be 3 bedrooms? Are the cottages going to be 2 bedrooms? We don't know. This is a dangerous delegation of discretion to the developer, and I think they should go back to the drawing board and put together a plan that's a final plan, rather than give us a vague set of shifting numbers. At bottom, we think that this property should not be used for residential purposes. They should honor the agreement that was made when the property was annexed. Thank you.
Speak.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Kelly McCain.
I live at 1233 Bremer Court. I've been around as a citizen of Hoover since 1973. There used to be a council chairman named William Billingsley that served as council very well. Mr. Billingsley's main concern was the citizens of Hoover. He realized the growth was in commercial, but he never forgot the citizens of Hoover. I'm a prime example of that. Mr. Chairman, you may well know that I made my living serving the building industry. But I lived at Monte Dior Drive, right there at the corner of Lorna and Wisteria Drive. And my house was backed up to that residence there. And they put a commercial building there. And we came to a meeting like we're here tonight, and the citizens were very concerned about the process. What I'm hearing tonight is similar to what I heard then. And everything is skewed for them to make exceptions and not be held accountable. In my particular incident, we took the time to dedicate what was proper, not only for the development, the person investing the money and everything, but what was appropriate for the residents as well. So we took the time to work with the developer as well as the residents, and it, as the gentleman indicated, it needs to go back to the drawing board. You don't have, I see no spaces for cars parking, and it's just not the city of Hoover that I know since the consensus of Hoover. So I would appreciate you giving consideration, not opposed to development, but it should be a like you crawl before you walk and you walk before you run. And this is a division from commercial to residential, and therefore it should be ample consideration should be considered, and there should be a plan instead of maybe, almost maybe 1.5 parking spots, 81 parking spots. I think all of the T's need to be crossed and all the I's need to be dotted before it goes further. That's just my concern. I would be opposed.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Tony Jones. I live at 1254 Greystone Park Drive, Birmingham, Hoover medically. So I live right inside the back gate, about a mile down on the left. A couple things I heard that I'm not sure of. Two terms that sort of bothered me was compact and street parking. If you're going to build the development in there, are we talking about parking on Tattersall Boulevard on the street? No. Where's the parking on the streets going to be? Where's the parking on the street going to be?
Two primary internal streets, parallel streets.
Okay, and the compact part to me means we're going to put as much stuff as there as we can get, as close as we can get it, so that we can make more money out of it.
No, sir, I think we're just trying to keep the buildings close to the agreeing into each other to create a continuous streetscape.
Okay. Now, I think the gentleman, I don't have my glasses, I can't read your name. I know we got in here a few minutes early before the meeting started. And y'all going over the situation, the thing, and I think the young lady right here, is that Jennifer? Is that your name? She asked you, she said, are all the P's for the things that already should be built there, and the C's not? You said yes. Then when we all got in here, she asked you the same question again. You said, well, no. So which one is it?
Jones? Mr. Jones, is that
Yes,
correct?
mhm.
I'd like you to address the questions to us, and we'll
Okay,
answer the
if you can
questions,
answer,
okay?
go ahead, that's fine.
I don't know the answer to that, but we'll get the answer, so we'll answer any questions you have, but it needs, the process needs to, you address the commission, and we'll find out the answers.
Would I get
Because if
the
we
answer?
start having, you ask everybody out there, it'll become a
Or do you,
free-for-all.
when do I get the answer, I guess?
Well, you give me all the questions, and I'll write
Okay.
them all down, and we'll be trying to get those answers.
Okay, that's fine, I appreciate it, thank you very much. I was just asking on the P part, it's things that's supposed to be, right now, you go get a building permit and build it there. And the Cs are the things you gotta work on or whatever, see if you can get those things changed.
Okay.
He originally said, yes, the Ps are, and she asked me the question again a while ago, and he said, well, no, not really.
We'll get a clarification on that.
Okay, I appreciate it. The other one is, again, like everybody asks, is on the parking. On 119 going down, if you come down to Greystone Way and take a right going down 119, there's two new complexes down there on the right. I don't even think they're 15% filled yet. So getting the traffic count on those will be very difficult when there's nobody living there. The apartments across the street with 300-something people, the same thing right there on the corner of 119 and Brook Highland Parkway. Also, recently, I think pretty much everybody knows, UAB has purchased St. Vincent's 119, all of that property. Right now, there's a weightlifting facility in there and some doctor's offices, but when UAB takes it over, I got a feeling it's gonna be a lot more attentive than not, because people are gonna start going there for medical purposes other than just working out and say having a doctor's appointment. That's just another thing, but I don't have a problem with, building commercial stuff. I never have a real problem with people going there and living. And the parking spaces, like you already mentioned, having 1.5 parking spaces, and I think somebody asked a question on the review. They said, well, we can put them in the back. We're gonna have some extra space in the back. There's no particulars. Like, if you have a visitor come in at night and you're staying there, where do they park? If you have somebody, you said 3-bedroom, and you gotta have at least 2 car parking spaces, but if you have visitors or anybody, where they gonna park?
The last thing is, to me, is the hotel extended stay. Extended stay to me means transient, people coming in, staying 3, 4 days, 5 days and leaving, coming back or whatever. And transient hotels that I'm familiar with are places where you have prostitution, child trafficking and stuff going on.
That's right.
That just bothers me a whole lot. I don't think anybody gets involved in that, and I don't think anybody gets involved in not knowing who your neighbors are and people coming and going. But I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
I'll make sure I got your
Yes.
questions correctly. You want to find out about the P's and C's?
Yes,
what they're for.
Yes, sir.